What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel, or if you are new here, welcome. I am the Wolfman, and I am continuing today the Virginia Film Festival coverage with 4 films on day 4. It's not going to be as exciting on day 5, guys. Trust me. Today I'm in a motel room because our next movie tomorrow is like super early, and I didn't want to wake up like very early in the morning 2 days in a row, so I ended up just getting a motel. But I am filming it from a motel. It's like a tradition to do at least one of the reviews in this capacity. So, here are the movies I'm reviewing today. Starting with A Real Pain. This is, I think, the second directorial effort from Jesse Eisenberg. And he stars in it, writes it, and directs it. And it also co-stars Kieran Culkin. What this film is about is pretty much Jesse Eisenberg and Kieran Culkin play cousins, and they're both meeting each other to go on this retreat. And this retreat is a Holocaust tour to honor their grandmother who passed away not too long ago, and she was a Holocaust survivor. And Jesse Eisenberg apparently got this idea when he took a tour to Poland, because that's where they're at. They tour in Poland. Along the way, he was finding all these discoveries, and he even learned about not only the Polish culture, went to the Holocaust tour, but also, he saw somebody, I think that was like there to honor their grandmother, and that's where he came up with this idea for this movie. And so both of them are kind of grieving in their own way, but Kieran Culkin is grieving even more because he was super close to the grandmother. So you see that dynamic kind of play out, and I absolutely loved this movie. This is one of the best movies I've seen this year because I related to it. See, I'm not Jewish. I got a lot of respect for the Jewish culture because of this movie. I was instantly able to respect what they do, how they go about things because of this. But the thing I did relate to is I am very close to my own grandmother. And so a film about someone who is trying to honor their grandmother, who was super close to their grandmother, and you can see the pain from the loss of their grandmother, really hit me deeply, and it hit me profoundly. And Kieran Culkin, I've not related to a character like that in a while. And what I mean by that, like the last character I related to like this was probably Sam Rockwell from The Way, Way Back. The reason I say that is because when I saw The Way, Way Back, I was like, oh, Sam Rockwell, he's like literally me. Like his personality, his persona, the way he goes about things. Kieran Culkin literally is me in this movie. Like the way he goes about his attitude, the way he acts, the way he does things, especially if you really get to know me, I am that way. And I act a lot like that to also try to cover up pain that I'm dealing with. When I lost my grandmother, I did the very same kind of thing that he did. He wants to be the center of attention. He wants to try to be this intrusive a bit, embarrassing, all this kind of stuff. And I was the same way. I, would alienate those around me by doing so. And some people have gotten used to it, and they're just, no, that's just how I am naturally, because I'm just very extroverted. I'm very extroverted. And also just because I have ADHD, so it's part of my disability. I just am naturally that way. So that is one thing that I heavily related to in this movie and walked away just in all of that. But also it reminded me a lot of a dynamic between me and the friend who went to this festival with me. It reminded me of that same dynamic. We're both Like, he's like the Jesse Eisenberg part, and I'm a lot like the Kieran Culkin part. Like, their relationship is a lot like me and my friend's relationship, but also their chemistry was excellent. You could feel like they actually were cousins in real life. Like, that's almost how it felt like, because that is how good they played off of each other. And Kieran Culkin, I know he's getting a lot of like awards praise right now. People are wanting to nominate him for Best Supporting Actor, all of that. Here's the thing. I'm calling BS on that, not because he's not worthy. If he gets nominated, he may even deserve to win. He's that good. Here's the thing. He's not supporting. He is a full-on lead in that movie. All right? And you cannot tell me otherwise. The movie literally opens up on him and then it ends on him. And he goes on this tour with Jesse Eisenberg, and the whole movie is essentially a road movie / hangout movie going on this tour of grieving. That is the whole movie. And so it's really just them and the other people who are on the tour. There's like other guys on the tour. They would be supporting. He is a full-on lead. That is category fraud. I'm just calling it as it is. So yeah, that is one thing I want to say. Also, the script, the actual screenplay, might be my favorite script I've listened to with my very ears all year, because every single line of dialogue, I mean, this movie is hilarious, like laugh out loud funny, but then it is also heart aching and beautiful. And the way that they write the characters, it feels so real and true to life. You've heard me say that a lot, but it's just even more true with this film. And so I really loved what Jesse Eisenberg was able to do with the screenplay here. And what he did with the directing was really good too. The score, now they did have the captions over it, so there is really no score because it's like symphonics or however, symphonies or whatever the word is, from like Beethoven and Mozart and stuff like that. You can see it when they do the captions. They have captions on this because sometimes some of the screenings are open captioned. So there really is no like true original score to this, but the music that they did use was heightened every scene. I thought every performance was great. Jesse Eisenberg, I know I was like praising Kieran earlier, but Jesse Eisenberg is just as good. Like, this is some of the best I've seen him since like The Social Network. Like, he knocks it out of the park. And there's like something that was revealed in the movie that I'm not going to give away with Kieran Culkin's character, and the way Jesse Eisenberg responds to it is very emotional. So I highly, highly encourage you guys to check out A Real Pain when it becomes available near you, because honestly, this is instantly going to be in my top 10 of the year, I think, just for the way it affected me personally. I think if you're Jewish, you definitely have to see this, just because of what it says about the Jewish community. But I think if you've also connected to a loved one and you've lost a loved one, I think you also need to see this, because you are going to be very deeply affected by it, like I was. So that's my review for A Real Pain. Make sure you guys check it out. I believe it's going to be in select theaters November 10th, and then I don't know when it's going wide. But be on the lookout for it when it does go wide. You don't want to miss this one. The next movie I'm going to review for you guys is The World According to Allee Willis. This is a documentary. About Allee Willis, who was a pop star sensation. And I wasn't really familiar with everybody is familiar with Allee Willis, but I didn't know she wrote some of the songs that she did write. So I knew going into this festival that I had to see a documentary, because I watched a documentary every year at one of these fests. I watched 2 last year. I watched 1 the previous year. And I'm somebody who, myself, just like I talked about with Real Pain, how great the script was and like how I'm passionate about screenwriting because I myself want to write scripts. I also want to make documentaries. And so I always try to seek out really good docs. This doc was exceptional. Now, this is a documentary that is pretty much showing you archival footage and interviews from people who knew Allee Willis personally, who were friends with her, who were colleagues of hers, or people that she was in a relationship with, such like that. And they're sharing their stories about her, about the kind of person she was, about the parties she threw. Apparently, she threw like the best parties in the business, had like a great house to do so, and they talked about that and was praising that. And well, here's a few of the songs that she wrote. Was I was literally, when they started playing that, I was dancing in the theater. So yeah, September from Earth, Wind and Fire. Also, she wrote, Boogie Wonderland from Earth, Wind and Fire. She wrote the Friends theme song, the theme song that you know from Friends. And then she also wrote the actual songs and lyrics and such for The Color Purple on Broadway. The reason why that one is so important is because she not only was an icon for music, but she was an icon for the queer community, and she was an icon for the colored community because she wrote a lot of these songs and helped write it with people of color to really make it a cultural standpoint and stamp on our society. And I really respected that about her. And she herself was queer. She was a lesbian, but she was a closeted lesbian. She said that in this business, especially around that time, her being a woman, if she would have also come out publicly as a woman, she felt like she was going to be shamed by a ton of people. So she was always insecure about that, but she expressed her sexuality and how she felt about her sexuality through her art and through her music. And I say through her art because she apparently would also paint. That was another thing too. She got into painting and she became a really big time artist on that front. So that was one thing about her that was really fascinating. And why I mentioned The Color Purple earlier is because The Color Purple was the first Broadway play to ever have a lesbian love song in there and a lesbian kiss scene. And that type of stuff was written by Allee Willis. She made such a huge cultural stamp on our music industry, and people don't even realize it. They don't even realize she's the one responsible behind all these great hits, all these great works that have been made. And there was a lot of great talking heads in this doc. You had Paul Reubens in there, who played Pee Wee Herman, who is great, and he was friends with her. You had Cyndi Lauper in there, which, was the girl who sings Girls Just Want to Have Fun. She was in there, and that was excellent to see. You had Paul Feig in there. Paul Feig was friends with her, apparently, and there was a ton more where that came from. And I was just so invested in this doc and want to really research even more of the music that she's done because she truly is a legend. And I'm always going to be grateful for what she did. And when she passed away, people were like heartbroken and devastated that she passed away. She passed away at 72 due to a heart attack. It was very unfortunate. And I think that was in like 2018, they said. But people were taken aback by it because she was the sweetest soul in the universe. She was a complicated figure. They still talked about her flaws, which I respected. But they also just talked about the kind of true friend and just genuine person she was. And so I highly encourage y'all check out this documentary, The World According to Allee Willis. It'll be available on VOD, I believe, at the end of the month. It's going to go straight to VOD, so you guys can watch it there. Y'all don't want to miss this one. It was fantastic. Next up, there is a film called FAQ. Now, I watched this one because I was going to see All We Imagine as Light, because I've been hearing raves about that. But it was sold out, and I didn't want a chance sitting in a standby line and then not being able to get in if it was completely booked. So I decided to see this film, and I am glad I saw it because this film doesn't have a distributor. So there is no way I was going to watch it otherwise. And the thing with this film is it's a South Korean film. It's part of their like Korean series that they're doing at the Virginia Film Festival. They do it every year, like a bunch of Korean films. This is a South Korean film about this young girl who's in kindergarten. She finds this rice wine, and the rice wine she keeps, and it becomes fermented, and then it starts to like bubble, because that's what it does when it gets fermented, and it starts to kind of talk to her in Morse code, and so she can start to understand it. It helps her kind of navigate through life, through school, through all this different stuff that she needs to go through. And I thought this was a cute movie. It was nothing really all that special. It was interesting to see, like, a lot of the stuff is in her imagination. You see these like puppet things come out there from a book that she read, all this stuff like that. So I definitely can respect this film and what it was trying to say, the allegories it was going for. But at the end of the day, I mean, it's not one I'm going to revisit. But I had a fun time with it. It's not like bad or anything. I thought it was cute. She was an adorable little girl in the film, and the film itself was adorable, and she gave a really good performance as well as the parents in this film, because parents are big characters, and I was fascinated by her imagination and what she comes up with in her head, and some of the style of how this film was done. I thought that was really interesting. But yeah, just a good one-time kind of watch for me. It's passable. So once it does become available, check it out if you guys want to. Y'all don't have to be in any rush, but definitely check it out if you guys feel the need to check it out. The next film I want to talk about is the one that I am aching to talk about right now because I just got done watching it. It was the last film of the festival tonight. It is called Vermiglio, and this is Italy's submission for the Academy Award. One interesting fact about this movie: going in, I didn't know who the distributor was. I love Janus Films, the studio. Like, they do so much good movies. Look up their stuff. Some of your favorite movies are guaranteed to be from Janus Films. They do so much good stuff, and I just thought that this one truly was exceptional. What this one is about is it's in 1944. The war is over. Italy is freed. So there is a soldier who comes back, who's friends with the cousin of this family, who comes back, and his name is Pietro, and he ends up falling in love with the main character, whose name was Lucia. One thing I did want to say, without spoiling anything, is that something happens that makes the family's life start to kind of slowly spiral out of control. The reason I say this movie is going to be boring for several people is there are straight up 3-minute shots of a person smoking a cigarette or something and not saying anything. You know, there is this is one of those like slow burn style movies where it's very lived in, the camera following this family. So a lot of people are gonna not be into this. This is not gonna be their cup of tea. I could tell some of the people in the theater this is not their cup of tea. There were some people like me who loved it, but there was other people who just this was not going to be for them. I just was entranced by it and was locked into its spell, and then I just never wanted to let go. I thought the cinematography of this movie is the most gorgeous cinematography I've seen this year. There are some shots in this movie that I straight up want to plaster on my wall. I thought this was gorgeous. Every frame was a work of true artistry and magic. I was blown away by it on that front. The natural lighting that they used, the like on location sets, the long shots, all that stuff. I really loved it. I loved the learning about Italian culture and like the dialect in which they would talk. They talked an all natural Italian dialect, and I loved that. I also loved the whole family in this movie, all the characters. I really could vibe with everyone. I felt like I was there with that family and I could have watched them for like a whole another hour. This is like a 2 hour movie. A lot of people are going to say it feels like 3 hours. For me, I could have spent like another hour to make it 3 hours and I would have been just fine. There's something hypnotic about this movie. It is truly like a spell, like I mentioned. There are those movies that I kind of compare this to Godland or EO, which are also both from Janus, where they kind of feel like a movie that you put on the fireplace and you watch it over the mantle of your fireplace. You know what I mean? It gives off that kind of vibe where you can get under a blanket, feel nice and cozy, and turn it on. That's just like the aesthetic of it and the vibe that you get from it. And I was just into this. It was just absolutely my kind of film, and I cannot wait to watch it again. It's gonna be on Criterion, so as soon as they put out the Criterion Blu-ray of it, I'm gonna be buying it instantly. I do think that this is going to get nominated for the International Feature Oscar. They usually like to give at least a Janus film an Oscar nomination, and this one would be deserving. All the performances here were exquisite. I mean, like, they felt honest and real and emotional. It just was very profound. I loved it. And so, if you are into slow, meditative dramas that just feel very ambient and hypnotic, this is the kind of movie for you. I've not seen this director's other things. I'm going to seek out whatever she does next now after this movie. She utterly blew me away here. And the directing was just fantastic. She has an eye for imagery and for camera work. And that is exactly what this movie does. And that's what cinema is all about. So that is my review for Vermilio, as well as A Real Pain, The World According to Ali Willis, and FAQ. So let me know in the comments down below, which one are you looking forward to the most? Have you seen any of these? I highly encourage you watch all of them, especially try to see Vermilio in a theater if you can. If that's kind of what you're into, watching it in a theater, because this is a big screen kind of movie. Seeing it on the largest screen possible was just an experience to behold, as well as like A Real Pain. See that in a theater if you can, and then see the other ones on VOD or however you manage to watch them. But definitely seek all these films out because they're great. This is a really, really great festival so far, and I still have another day of reviews for you guys. So stay tuned because day 5 is on its way, and we got a lot of exciting stuff to cover. So I will see you all in the next video. Until next time, stay classy, my friends, and keep on watching those movies.